Welcome back to the Anvil modeling tutorial series. This is part 2. This is where we left off in part 1. We created the basic structure of our anvil. So far so good, most people could have really got here by themselves almost. But now we're going to do something a little bit tricky. We are going to be creating this very tricky cutout shape in our mesh. Because this is what makes the anvil so challenging, and it's actually why I chose it partly for this reason, is that it's got a lot of really challenging shapes and things in it, which is going to help you later on when you do fun stuff like modeling guns and different things, right? So this cutout shape here, it's really difficult because this is a slope, right? That's a slope there, but then not only that, we have to do a slope around here, and we have to somehow fit them in together, okay? So it creates an interesting challenge. Some people would say modeling is tedious. Other people would call it a challenge, a puzzle, really. So here's the thing about modeling, is that there's no one clear way to approach something, or approach a challenge, right? What I mean by that is you've got, let's say you had 3 modelers and you gave them the challenge of making this anvil. All 3 of them could have come up with 3 different solutions for how to handle this problem of this curve shape here. Okay, so one of them, for example, don't follow along as I do this. I'm just going to show you a couple of ways. One of them could have created, some messy cuts like this. Let's say maybe he's not too keen on like clean meshes or anything like that, and he's like, yeah, that looks sort of like an anvil, right? There's a couple of ways you could do it. That's one of them. With enough finessing, I guess it could sort of work. Another guy could have gone, okay, top view, I'm going to perform some knife cuts along here. I might delete those faces, whatever. Okay, there's a number of ways that you could do it. The third way, the way I'm going to show you, is what I think is the correct way for something like this, which is a Boolean operation. Boolean. What does Boolean mean? Well, turns out if you Google it, it'll tell you the answer. But it doesn't just apply to 3D software. It applies, I think, just to language even. It's taking when you have 2 objects and they are overlapping, what is their relationship? One is going to intersect with the other. Is it going to subtract? Is it going to add to it? Whatever, right? So as a basic example, let's just say I have a sphere. I also have a cube, and they are overlapping. So if I perform a Boolean operation, I'll show you properly in a moment, but this is a quick example. You can see that, oh, hang on, hide that. I'm now able to create some different shapes, okay? I could also invert the direction and make it so that now the sphere is subtracting. That's kind of cool. Is subtracting. Hey, that's pretty sweet, actually. I like that. Yeah, it's subtracting like that. So there's a bunch of cool things that you can do with Boolean. So the point I'm getting at, and I'm sure the point that you have figured out already, is that this looks remarkably like a cylinder ate away at the anvil. And you would be correct. That is what we're going to do. So let me hide that. We're going to add in a cylinder, as you might have guessed, and we're going to move it around about where we want it to cut away. Doesn't matter where it's positioned right now because you can always move it around later. Just position it somewhere close. Then you want to select the mesh that you want to perform, that you want to keep, and you want the other one to subtract from. Yeah, make sure you're selecting that one. And I only say this because I've done this. I've practiced the anvil so many times, and like 3 times I think I selected the cylinder first without thinking. Anyway, so select the anvil. Then go to the modifier stack, add modifier, and you're looking for Boolean. Okay, now it's red by default because it hasn't got an object. So just with this little eyedropper tool, click that and then select the cylinder. Okay, ooh, what happened? We did something wrong. No, it's actually working correctly, but it's putting itself inside the cylinder. So it's performing it the opposite that we want. So instead of intersect, we're going to change it to difference. And that is it. Look at that. We now have a cut in our anvil. Now, when you look at it in solid view mode, you can't see anything because they are 2 shapes literally intersecting with each other and you can't see inside them. So here's a little tip. if you go to the object settings and underneath display, if you change the maximum draw type from textured to wire, now it won't show you anything beyond wire. So now you can move it around and you can see how it's actually affecting your mesh underneath it. Maybe one day in the future, the Boolean operation, the modifier, might already do that for you, so you don't have to think about it maybe. I don't know. But there you go. Okay, so what we want to do is just position it around about where we want to perform that cut. All right? Something like that. And I might actually just scale this along the x-axis to make it a little bit pointier, like so. And just as a general tip here, this is going to make our next bit a whole lot easier. Just make sure that the furthermost point, like this pointy bit of our cylinder, is just in line with one of those horizontal axes. Okay? Horizontal lines. Okay? Okay. Have I said that enough? Cool. All right. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, that's cool, but what about the other side? Don't we have to do the exact same thing over there? No, because we are artists and we are lazy. And it is good to be lazy. You don't want to double up on work. We can perform a mirror operation for the other side. So if underneath our Boolean operation, our Boolean modifier, here, if we add a mirror, so the mirror is after the Boolean underneath, now it's performing a mirror. Okay, and the way it's performing the mirror is it is basing it off of what is on either side of this origin point, okay, and which axes. So it's performing it along the x-axis of the origin point, which is left and right, and it's mirroring itself both ways, which is incorrect. So uncheck that. What you're looking for is the y-axis. Now, that still doesn't look correct. And the reason for that is that you have got mesh on both sides of that origin point. You want to make it so that all of your mesh is on one side or the other. So you want to basically delete half of your mesh. But if you were to delete these vertices like this, you would see that we don't have anything that's joining them together. So before you delete them, make sure that you do a loop cut right here, just by hitting Control R and then click. And then when it's sliding around, just right click to cancel its slidiness. And then we're just going to select half of it with the box tool, click, delete, vertices. And there we go. Cool. So we got it on both sides now. And the cool thing is that you've still got your underlying mesh here. So this is still exactly the way it was. It's when you exit edit mode and you look at it from object mode that you're actually seeing the cutout shape there. Okay? So what we're going to do next is we're going to be applying this Boolean. We're going to click this apply button, which means that you'll actually see it in edit mode as well. However, before you click apply on any modifier, I always recommend that you first of all duplicate what you have and then move it to what is called a trash layer, which is basically, I just make it the last layer. It's a little tip. I think Andy Goralczyk does it as well. But it's like you keep things on a spare layer just in case you need to go back to it. Because otherwise, if you've applied it and then later on you decide you don't like the shape, you can't change it. So, but if you've got that, then you can. Anyways, so I am now going to hit apply on the Boolean, and it means I can delete my cylinder. And now when we go into edit mode, look what we have. Haha. Lovely. Okay, so that is the Boolean operator. It is pretty cool. It's pretty nifty. But if you're thinking, this is awesome, I never have to worry about modeling again, I'll just use Boolean operator. If I'm going to make a building, I'll just make a cube and subtract a bunch of other cubes from it. There is unfortunately a dark side to the Boolean operator. And that is that the Boolean operator generally makes a mess of your mesh. Okay, so if you look at it in edit mode, you might not be able to see a problem because, you've got a nice line across here. What's the problem, right? Well, the problem is the way that meshes need to be made up. Let me say that again. The basic crash course in a mesh, right, is that what you want to have is you want to have 4 vertices for each face of your mesh, okay? So these little dots, those are vertices. 2 dots together creates an edge, and 4 of them together with a face on it, creates a face. And we are always looking for 4 vertices per face. You never want to have 5 or 6 or 7, and you never want to have 3 unless you're making something for a game. A game engines, for whatever reason, use triangles. But for us, we're always looking for 4, okay? And the reason we're looking for 4 is that they have a direction. If I'm in face select mode and I was to alt click on any of the edges, it will show you the direction in which the faces are going. See, there's that direction, and then there's also this direction. Okay, so there's 2 directions for it to go. And the reason that that's important is because of the subsurf modifier. 99.9% of every single model you are ever going to make will probably need to have a subsurf modifier applied to it. If we were to do that with our mesh right now, you will see the problem. Subdivision surface. Bow, bow. What happened to our anvil, right? This no longer looks like a nice clean shape. Looks like something a Jedi should fall into. It's a horrible mess. Horrible. It doesn't know how to deal with what we've got going on right here. It's freaking out. And the reason is that these faces are made up of not 4 vertices. They are made up of 5 or more, or even less. It can cause problems. So whenever you have 3, whenever you have 5 or more, you're going to have problems. Okay, so that's what we've got going on right here. So what we need to do is we want to keep our shape. We like the shape that we've got, but we want to have 4 vertices. So what that means is we want to make each of these faces here 4, not the number that they are currently. Now, again, there are a number of ways that you can do this fix, this problem solving, we'll call it, right? The old method, the method that old Andrew would have used, is the hard way, which would be to basically say like, okay, I don't want that line there, so I'm going to delete those vertices. And now I want to draw lines down from those because that is going to make me a nice square. So I will draw those down, I will extrude them down, and now let me select that line there because I want them all to now be in line. So let me hit S, scale it along the Z axis, and then hit 0. Now they're all lined up. Now I want to make that a face, so I just hit F, and I want to make this a face, so I hit F, and then those would have to be a face again, and those would have to be a face again. Clear the normals to fix that little dark problem, and now we've fixed it. Okay, so I was able to make, there we go, we've now got a direction to it. Okay, oh, I didn't mention it before, but yeah, there's a direction in all of these, but the moment it goes down to anything that has 5 or anything else, it cuts off. It doesn't know what's going on over here. But now you can see with this one, it does because there is 4. So that's what we're trying to do. Now that, what I just did there, it works, but it's a long way, and there's a lot of clicking and deleting and things, and there's actually a much easier way, which I guess I learned years later, and that is to use the knife tool. So the knife tool is enabled by hitting K for knife, and if you were to click and just draw on your mesh and you were to just draw around like this, what it's doing is it's from whatever view that you were looking at it is, it draws onto your model. Okay, it creates vertices and dots and lines and things. Good explanation. But the important thing is that it keeps the faces that you've already got. It just adds extra vertices to it. So what we can do is we can use the knife tool, because I want to just draw a line basically straight down into this edge right here. So if I go to front view, and front view is important, as I'll show you in a second, and then turn on the knife tool, you'll see that, by the way, when you move it around, when it gets close to an edge, it snaps to it. And when it gets close to a vertice, it also snaps to it, and there's a red outline. So when it has a red outline, I'm going to click, and then I'm just going to pull it down, right? Or just move the mouse down. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a straight line. And it's hard to get a straight line, too fiddly, but there's a keyboard shortcut you can remember, or actually you don't have to remember. It's actually along the bottom of that toolbar there. You can see it says enter, space, all that kind of stuff. That's giving you the keyboard shortcuts that you can use whilst you're in this mode. So one of them will say C for constrain to angle. So if you hit C, it's now snapping it to 45-degree increments, which is perfect. So now I just want to draw it until I hit that bottom line there. I'm just going to click and then hit enter. And that is it. So I was able to draw a straight line through it whilst keeping the face there. So I didn't have to redo face, hit F and do all that extra stuff. I was just able to draw it. But we still have these vertices here. So how do I fix that? Well, here's another thing. You don't have to just delete those and then, do this thing. What you can actually do is if you were to, if you hit G, right? That is just going to move it, in relation to what the camera is currently looking at, right? But if you are to double tap G, what it's doing is it's doing an edge slide, okay? And if you just slide it all the way, doesn't matter which way to do it, one or the other, it's now doubling up, okay? So you can see right here, I've now got two vertices right on top of each other, and same down here. And that is not good. That's actually the one thing that meshes hate. Doesn't know how to handle that in shading. It's the cause of all sorts of problems. So much so that there is an operation, if you select everything and then just hit W, you'll see something here that says remove doubles. Now, if you were to click that, it searches the whole mesh, and if it finds any any vertices that are on top of each other, it will merge them together. So I don't know if you just saw it right there, but it said removed two vertices. So let me do it again. I'll select this line here, double tap G, slide it along, doesn't matter which way. Now I just hit A twice to select the whole mesh, W, remove vertices, and it says removed two vertices. And by the way, if you don't want to remember the W, I think it's actually in the toolbar. Yeah, there it is, remove doubles. So exact same thing. So we now just need to do that for the rest of it, which I was doing so much explaining that it probably confuses you into thinking it's a huge long process, but it's not. So I hit K, down, C, click, enter. K, click, C, click, enter. K, click, C, click, enter. And now, I just take these, double tap G, slide it along, double tap G, slide it along, double tap G, slide it along. Same with this one, slide it along, and actually same with this one. Slide that along, slide this along, slide this along, and we'll fix that, what's going on there in a second. But now I just select everything, remove doubles. Removed 14 vertices, look at that. So now, look at our mesh. Aren't we clever? Oh, okay. So this one is still not working because if you zoom right in, our positioning wasn't exactly perfect. So if you see this, you've got three that need to be merged into one. Because we don't have any other ways to merge this, I'm just going to make a loop cut right here, like vertically, like halving it basically right there. And then what I want to do is I just want to merge these. So I'm going to hit Alt-M. So that's how you merge things. If you've just got vertices you want to connect together, merge them together, hit at center. And now, right here, I'm going to select this face. I'll just delete that face. There's a gecko in the roof. Now I've deleted that face. I'm just making another face there and another face there. Now, if you have done this correct, you should now see clear lines. So clear flow that way, a clear flow this way, clear flow this way, another flow this way, and also this direction. So now we have got a nice flow to our mesh, okay? The reason this is so important is check this out. With the subsurf turned on, we no longer have a sarlacc pit. We now have a nice smoothed off edge there. And if you're thinking like, okay, but I don't want a really smoothed off edge like that. Well, in the next part, we're going to be doing what you call proximity loops, whatever they're called. But it's where you add in edge loops like this, and you add it in close, and you now have control over how round that edge is there. And same with down there. And you can add more across here. Don't do this, by the way, because it'll create all sorts of problems up here, which it's easier if you do it after you do the next part of this mesh. But yeah, so that's why we went to all that trouble. The only other final thing that we'll do in this video, I'll just close up the bottom here. So it's actually quite easy. First of all, I'll just delete that edge and then just select all this. So holding down Alt, and then I am clicking on that edge right there. I'll deselect these end pieces. So I've just got the ring. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to extrude. And I'm going to extrude it along the y-axis. So it extrudes it into itself. And because we've got the mirror turned on, what we can do is we can turn on clipping like that. And when you've got clipping, what it'll do is that now when it gets close, they'll stick together. It's a very satisfying thing. I love doing that. Doesn't need the sound effect. No, you're right. Cool. So now I've done that. I'll make a face there because I know that's 4 vertices and 4 vertices right there. And we've done it. Yay. Well done. So I'll just make that a little bit thicker. Thick. Awesome. Lovely. So that was, in a roundabout way, how to make that cutout shape of our mesh there. So as you can see, the Boolean tool, it's very powerful. It does require some manual modifications in order to make it work properly with the subsurf modifier. Sometimes you don't need to do all that rearranging. There's a bunch of people that just do a bunch of Boolean stuff now and they don't worry with the subsurf. But if you want to make a nice clean mesh, this is sort of what you need to do to patch it up. So it's something to keep in mind. The Boolean, like this, what I just showed you, the Boolean thing, it used to do a horrible mess before B-Mesh was in Blender, which don't worry about it if you don't know what that is. But before that was the thing, like it just made triangles everywhere. Like it made an absolute mess of everything whenever you use the Boolean, which is why most older Blender artists don't use it at all. But since B-Mesh, it's a lot cleaner and it works a lot nicer. But anyways, that's the tutorial. If you found it useful, please give it a thumbs up so that other people can find it. And I will see you in part 3. Thank you for watching. And if you want to get the keyboard shortcut guide, if you don't have to remember all the keyboard shortcuts, the link for that is in the description as well. Thank you for watching.